Good morning, everybody. So we're trying to get a couple more people reconnected. We had some people that were signed in and are trying to get back on, but I didn't want to keep you all waiting any longer. Stephanie is out with a sick child today, so you get me instead. I'm Jeff, and don't worry, I'm Stephanie's boss, so I should be able to answer all the same questions. Um, let's see who we have. Tammy, you're signed on. You can hear me okay? And then is that Carrie in Butte?
It is, yes.
All
Hi.
right. Hi. And then Daisy in Trout Creek. Is that my third up there?
Actually, I'm sitting in for Daisy, and my name is Mary.
Mary. Well, very nice to meet you. Thanks for sitting in. Do you have any idea if Beth Rice Groshong is going to be signing in for the video conference today?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
No.
Fair enough. Well, I suppose we can go ahead and get started here, and hopefully the other folks will be able to sign in here momentarily and catch up. We're expecting, I think, three more, so we'll see how that works out. So, wanted to first talk a little bit about what's new with the backpack program this year. Backpack's been going since 2008 and it's been changing a little bit every year. One of the main things that's new that you probably already know about is Stephanie Stratton, who is our school programs coordinator. Stephanie, we were able to hire Stephanie on at the start of this school year to kind of lend MFBN a hand with school-based programs and child hunger programs. What she is really the dedicated contact for schools like yours that are running programs like this. She's always available. That is her main focus. Hey, Karen, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, it went away.
It's okay. It's technology. It's both good and bad depending on how it's working, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So Stephanie provides that direct point of contact for you at any given time. She is quickly becoming the expert on child hunger programs and great resource for all of you. Site coordinator hours are also something that's relatively new. Well, I think we've got a few pretty new programs here, and so you probably didn't know that it was ever any other way. But what that does is that gives us the ability to better understand what the what the staffing time is for an individual program, how much time on average a site coordinator spends to run the backpack program. That's necessary for MFBN in terms of program planning. It helps us when we have new programs on board because they're always curious how much time it's going to take. And it also helps for fundraising purposes because any grantor wants to know as many details as they can, what the money will be used for, what administrative costs, etc., etc. And we'll get into more of that here in just a minute. Fiscal sponsorship is another piece that's relatively new, and we will be talking more about that. That's everybody's favorite topic, but it is a necessary component, and it is nowhere near as complex as it sometimes seems. And then also, we got new backpack sites. We are always expanding. I think we've got somewhere between 7 and 10 new sites this year. Some are just about to get started, like White Sulphur Springs, who's on the call here, and Anaconda just started this year. We're right now distributing, I believe, over 2,000 bags, about 2,200 bags every week to 68 sites in 26 communities. So Backpack is doing its job, and we're spreading out, and we're expanding to some of the areas that need it. And that's actually one of the main reasons that we're trying to get everybody trained in, learn a little bit more about the fiscal sponsorship and the fundraising piece of this all. And statewide distribution, like I said, it is ramping up. We've got a lot of great programs right now, and we're hoping that we can keep adding on to it. So the first thing we wanted to talk about a little bit is budgeting for Backpack. So in order to do program planning, you need to have an idea of what your costs are going to be. The expenses for Backpack are pretty straightforward. There's personnel, which should be pretty minimal because I think that everybody is a volunteer program coordinator. but still your time is money, and so it should be written into the budget. Even if it doesn't actually involve writing a check for it, it's a good practice to keep track of that. Direct program costs, very straightforward. Those are the bags themselves. Unfortunately, we can't provide all the bags for free. They're just under $4 delivered pricing, and that's something that always has to be kept track of, both for your own program as well as for Montana Food Bank Network, to be able to project what the necessary, well, the number of bags that we're going to need, because we purchase about 2 or 3 truckloads of backpack bags each year. We need to make sure that we're able to forecast what the need is going to be. And it's a pretty straightforward process for determining the cost. If, say, you have 20 kids that are referred to the program at roughly $4 a bag, then that's 80 bags each week, and then multiply that by 40 weeks in a school year, and you end up with being about $3,200 for an entire school year to support 20 kids. So 20 students times 40 weeks is 800, times $4 a bag, 3,200. So depending on your referral count, you can pretty accurately forecast what the need is going to be. Of course, your referral counts are going to change pretty regularly throughout the year, but what we're looking for is an estimate, and that's good for everybody. Administrative costs, again, should be pretty minimal, but if you have to do some printing of materials, if you have to be mailing things out to potential donors or thank you notes to people that have already given, that's something it's a good idea to keep a line item in your budget for just that. These days, donors are more and more savvy, they're more and more involved, and things like thank you notes and acknowledgments, not only are those good for tax purposes, but they're also good just for general community goodwill, so people will know, yes, we are keeping track of this, thank you very much for your support. And then there's also in-kind contributions. In-kind contributions are actually listed as an income as well as an expense, and it's just kind of one of those weird budget things. In order to give a proper description of the expenses and incomes of your program, in-kind contributions needs to be in both. Theoretically, they're goods and services that you're going to need anyway, and so you need to include them in the expenses of your program, and then the income portion should cancel it out, if that makes sense. These are donations of goods and services, fresh produce to supplement the bags, volunteer hours, things that you probably aren't going to pay for, but are also still considered expenses of the program, even though no money is involved. So really include them in the line item under expenses, include them in the line item under income, and those two numbers should cancel each other out when it's all said and done. And then the other source of income is, of course, going to be the kind of the meat and potatoes, and that's the cash donations, which hopefully will be coming in pretty regularly from your communities. Does anybody have any questions about budgeting for Backpack before we move on to the next slide?
Jeff, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am not a part of the budget process because it comes directly from our food bank. Mm-hmm. Should I be more involved in that as a coordinator?
That is a great question. Well, let me ask you this. How has Kathy been about communicating with the individual schools? Do you have a lot of back and forth with Butte Emergency Food Bank?
I haven't heard from Kathy at all this year.
Really? Okay. So in terms of bag counts and whatnot, you've been talking with Stephanie, and I know we've had some talks with Kathy, but you haven't heard from Kathy at all.
I haven't heard from Kathy. I contact our food director weekly, but I don't talk to Kathy directly.
Okay. That might be a good thing to look into. I mean, because for all intents and purposes, Butte Emergency Food Bank is serving as the fiscal sponsor. So it's their job to be thinking of the fundraising and thinking of the budgeting. However, you are the ones at the schools. And so I personally think it's very important that the fiscal sponsor and the individual schools that are participating have direct communication. I think it'd be a great idea for all of the schools in Butte to meet with the food bank at least a couple times a year, at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, to get a better idea.
Sure. And I feel the same way. The program kind of started off this year, and we didn't know of any of the changes or that it was even what to look for. So I'll make more of an effort to contact Kathy.
Okay. And the start of this school year was also, it was a little bit sticky from our end as well. And so that's one of the other reasons we're trying to be more active in that process as well. So I think if we all keep improving the communication, the more smoothly the program will run.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions about the budgeting portion?
Could you go over that part about the cost for the bags again?
Yeah. Yeah, the bags cost just under or approximately $4 for each bag. And so because Backpack is a referral-based program, you're always going to have an idea of the number of children that are going to be participating each week. At the start of each year, teachers, counselors, principals, food service workers, they refer the children that have shown symptoms of chronic hunger. So at the start of the school year, if you end up with 20 referrals, that's what you can count on serving for each week. So say if there's 20 referrals at $4 a bag, that's roughly $80 each week. And then there's 40 weeks.
So,
go ahead.
is that cost, is that something that the schools have to come up with then, the $4 per bag?
That's what we're going to be getting into in the next slide here on fiscal sponsorship. The point we're at now, to give you a little bit of background, Montana Food Bank Network has been serving as the fiscal sponsor for quite a few sites. So that is lending our 501c3 as well as doing fundraising and providing the bags at no cost. What we're in the process of doing now is trying to connect the local schools with local fiscal sponsors, other nonprofits that can serve in the same capacity, lend their 501c3, which is necessary for tax purposes, and then also help with the fundraising piece so you can be more self-supporting.
Okay, thank you.
If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it seems like a good time to lead into the fiscal sponsorship piece. And we covered this yesterday when Stephanie was doing the first course. And I'm not sure who all was here, but we've got kind of a couple of different situations here because, well, as we just talked about, Butte schools are all under Butte Emergency Food Bank, so you've got a pretty strong fiscal sponsor already. White Sulphur Springs is also being operated by the local food bank, and so that's taken care of. Anaconda also already has a fiscal sponsor because we just kind of got started out. And I'm not quite sure where Trout Creek sits. Yeah. And I was hoping to have some other people.
I don't know either.
You don't know either, okay. I know that Beth with Sanders County, I think she's with Environmental Health, does help with the fundraising piece quite a bit. I was hoping she would be on the call so we could talk about this a little bit more, but that's okay. So we do have some successful partnerships, and actually, Tammy, this would probably be a good time if you would be so kind as to share a little bit about how you got the program started in Anaconda.
I'm going to spit out my gum. Actually, our program got started because of my family. Even though I'm a teacher in Anaconda, we have a restaurant in Anaconda, and the Butte community is amazing. They come to our restaurant all the time. So a couple of men from the food bank in Butte asked me, they knew I was really involved with my students besides just teaching. And so they asked me if I had ever heard of the program, and I had said no. They got me the information, and then I contacted the Montana Food Network, and then Jeff's been great, Stephanie's been great. Lucky for me, I went to the superintendent, talked to him about the program. He was all excited about it. He had a couple of ideas. Then the program just kind of took off from there. We were immediately able to get our 501c3, which I work with constantly. And then just, we've really had an outpour of community support. As a matter of fact, a guy from Butte this morning before school started came to me about 7:45 this morning and said, I have a $500 gift card, and he was from Butte. I have a $500 gift card as a pay it forward for your backpack program. Yesterday I received a $100 check from the mayor of Whitehall, who would like me to come over and present there because he would like Whitehall to somehow start. And so he sent me a personal check. And so, you know, ours is just kind of taken off like that. I have spoken to the Chamber of Commerce, their organization. I have spoken to like the Kiwanis, the Lady Hibernians, the Men Hibernians, different organizations. So Anaconda is just a fantastic community that is really supportive, as is, you know, Butte. I mean, and I'm just speaking about those two because, you know, I'm so familiar with them. But we are extremely self-supportive, so self-supportive that at Christmas time, I bought not only great big huge gift baskets with gifts for every single child in the program, about 5 gifts each, but we also sent them home with about another $250 worth of food that were great big food baskets for every single family in Anaconda. I'm currently working on Easter baskets, so which are going to be food and all that with a couple extra treats. But yeah, it's going fantastic.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. We've had quite a few success stories this year, and you're definitely one of them. So that's kind of an example of the way that the fiscal sponsorship piece works. The 501c3 is there to help you with the fundraising component. For the most part, the people running the program, you all are educators or school administrators. You're not fundraisers, you're not grant writers. If you can be involved, we of course encourage that, but the idea is for that fiscal sponsor to help become more part of the community. The bread and butter is going to be donations from businesses, from individuals. Backpack, luckily, is a pretty easy sell. And for those of you who are already involved in food banking or social services, you've already probably, hopefully, got a pretty good network, know who would be more likely to give, and who you should contact. It can be simple, it can be complex, there's all sorts of different ways that you can get involved. Dylan isn't on this call, but they've been self-supporting for years, and one of their biggest fundraising ideas is coffee and donuts in the morning. They just set up by the side of the road, and people buy it on their way into school, on their way into work, and they'll raise, $1,500 in a day doing that. So there's a lot of different creative ways. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I was just, because I haven't done a lot of fundraising because everybody's been so supportive, but can I tell them about how our teachers, it comes out of their paycheck?
Please
because
do.
Our hospital, the head of the CEO of the hospital just contacted me, and I'm going to be presenting to them because he wants to do it with his employees as well. Basically, this was the superintendent of Anaconda's idea. I had told him I really wanted to get the staff involved and have them be, supporters of the program. And he had said, why don't we do this? Why don't we have, if they want to be a sponsor for the $15 a month, we'll have it come, they can check a box. We had the regular forms. They check a box, they say they wanted to be a supporter. $15 came out of their check pre-taxed. So I have 30 teachers in Anaconda who do donate to the program every single month out of their paycheck pre-taxed. And our hospital is wanting to do the same entire thing, is to offer that out to their staff members. And that's terrific because, and actually 2 local businesses do that as well. 2 car dealerships are doing that now. But that way, their employees are donating, you can see right in their paycheck. So when your taxes, and they don't have to do anything. It's coming out pre-taxed, and so, our school district actually writes a check then to the Anaconda Community Foundation, who is our 501c3, and then the hospital will do the same thing. I mean, that's how all our donations are. Everybody writes a check to the Anaconda Community Foundation, but that really makes it nice. And hospitals are all on board for that, so are grocery stores, you know, because if you can do anything pre-taxed, and then that totally cuts down on your fundraising. You know, you can get, you know, teachers and all that. It's just easier. Sometimes you want to donate, but you forget, you know, or whatever the case may be.
Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, that was something brand new. I had never heard of anybody raising funds that way until Anaconda came on board and started doing it. But of all the ways to tap into individual donations in particular, that is probably the most efficient way of doing it. It might not work everywhere, but it's a great idea. And also, like Tammy said, approaching businesses with that pre-tax option, that makes it an easier sell. And then it also, like Tammy said, those checks go through the fiscal sponsor. That's their role, is to collect and track those funds, and then when the time comes, they're the ones that will write out a check to Montana Food Bank Network for the backpack bags. For tax reasons, it has to go nonprofit to nonprofit. But it's a great success story. There's also grants available. That's always something to look into if you're not quite sure how the fundraising process is going to go, or if you're in a smaller community and you're worried about sustainability. Grants.gov has a list of all kinds of different available grants, and there's also quite a few foundations. Anaconda Community Foundation is obviously an example, and there's a local community foundations, LCFs, all over Montana. If you were to just Google Montana Community Foundations, you would come up with quite a list. And that's what they're there to do, is improve the community. And services like this, like the backpack program, are an outstanding example of ways to do just this. And then there's also, of course, special events. What better fundraiser is there than a special event? There's been, the coffee and donuts in Dillon. You can do a split the pot of the football game. Does anybody else have any ideas for special events, ways to raise funds in the community?
There again in Anaconda, and I haven't done this, but I've done it for a different fundraiser. If you contact your rest area, like the rest area that we have right outside of Anaconda, and you do the donuts and coffee there, you would not believe how much those truckers, you know, it's a donation and they'll throw 20, 30, 40 bucks. It's shocking how much money they'll just throw because it's for kids. It's helping kids out. And so those areas are great. Or you can actually do that. I've heard of people doing it at a truck stop and asking, the store if it's okay if they set up and do donuts and all that in the morning when the trucks are getting ready to go, pull out.
That's a great idea, and that's kind of a... oh yeah, Carrie, go ahead.
Sorry. We're working on our fundraiser right now too. Our students are making pottery bowls, and we're having a soup night. So where people are gonna buy a pottery bowl for $20, and then they get endless soup. And we're working on about 500. Our goal is 500 bowls. So
Wow.
that's where we're at with our fundraiser, but we're in the beginning phases of that. But it gets the kids incorporated into it and has them, their support too, to help support other kids or themselves.
That's an awesome idea. It can be challenging to get the kids involved. I mean, most of the time you don't want the kids distributing the bags, but they do want to help, and so that's a fantastic way to go about it. If you're curious about how to run an event like that, Missoula Food Bank actually does an event called Empty Bowls as a fundraiser that's pretty similar each year. If you were to contact them, I'm sure that they would be willing to chat with you about it, and if you have any questions or any other ideas, they could definitely be of assistance.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. Some great ideas. Anybody else have ideas for special events for fundraising? All right. Well, we've got a couple ideas, and never discount it because you don't know what's going to be available. And a big part of the fundraising piece is bridge building. It's getting community partnerships. For those of you that already have the local food banks involved, that is a fantastic partnership. They know the lay of the land. If you know anybody who owns a local business, they're a great option. The first step, of course, is getting school administration on board. First and foremost. So, getting your superintendent, first of all, getting your principal involved, because that opens up another source of networking, another group of individuals and businesses. Parent-teacher organizations are a great one also. PTAs, PTOs, they're always looking for different ways to get involved, and they're there to support the kids also. A lot of the time, they're also a 501c3, so they can be a good fundraising partner. Civic groups. I think Tammy already also brought up, service groups like Rotary or Lions Club or the Veterans Associations. Depending on what's available in your community, whoever's the strongest, most active, oftentimes these groups have a service component built into their charter. And so they're oftentimes looking for a good fundraiser to do. And if you come to them with a good ask, they're going to have your back and they can be a continued partner. Churches are another huge one. More often than not, churches are already feeding people. They're feeding families already. You never know what ministries they might have that are directly related to either hunger or children or education, and anything along those lines, that can be a pretty easy connection that you can make. And then I already brought up, of course, partner agencies, local food pantries, soup kitchens, meal programs. They know the lay of the land, they know the lingo, and they can be very good partners and resources for you. Any other ideas for community support? Anything that I missed that might be a good resource for your program?
Jeff, I was going to say one way that we've gotten the word out, and it's not because I've contacted the paper, but because they've contacted me. And that's how, like, the guy in Butte, because of the Montana Standard, writing an article, but they picked it up from the Anaconda Leader, and also the Butte guy comes to my classroom a lot. But I think in your local towns, getting it out in the newspaper is huge, because that's, at first I was like, no, I don't want my name in the paper, you know what I mean, again, or your picture, but that was shocking. The other thing that was shocking from that is, I've had families contact me that actually, and kids that weren't on the backpack program, that need to be on the backpack program because they recognized my picture, or they, read it in the paper or whatever. And so it's worked both ways. I've lately gotten a lot of donations from that because it's been in the paper, and because, kids are then coming and saying, how do we get on this?
That's a great idea.
So I think, great resource, the paper.
Yeah, getting it out in the local paper, oftentimes people don't know that there's even conceivably a problem. If you're not in the industry, if you're not an educator, or if you're not somebody involved in food assistance, you don't even know if there's a need. That's a great way to get it out there. Just put a letter to the editor, or call them if you have a great story, and put that in there, and other people will read it. That actually does lead in pretty well. There is an advocacy component to Backpack. In order for both us and existing programs to get continued support from federal, state, and local government, we need to make sure that elected official, your local reps, understand what's going on. They need to know how well the program is going. They need to know what your continued needs are going to be. They need to know how much it's costing. And they might not be aware at all, or they might be in denial. But either way, getting the word out through a newspaper, through contacting your local rep, votesmart.org will have a list of all of your local representatives. It's a great way for them to understand what the need is in their area. They are there to represent their constituency, and it's something that they need to know about. And let's see, well, the Bacchus one is no longer good because he is now in a different role, but Tester and Daines are our other state reps. Anytime you feel like getting the word out to them would be a good time. And if you do have any questions or any advice on working with elected officials, we have a public policy and advocacy department that is their purpose, is working with the folks in Helena and Washington, D.C. to try to get continued funding that's going to help MFBN as well as all of our programs. Kate Devenot and Lorianne Burhop would be the contacts there. And they're there to answer any questions that you might have. So that, yeah, any other questions about anything we've covered today? Everybody hopefully go away with some good fundraising ideas. White Sulphur, you guys have been pretty quiet. I see you've been taking notes. Any questions about anything we've talked about?
Well, not yet. I guess we'll get started and see if we have questions.
Okay.
We've got a
yeah.
good, I mean, right now we've got a lot of support from the Nutrition Coalition and the Food Bank, and we have the community support, so I think getting the word out will help us a lot. We'll work on it.
Good deal. I'm glad you guys are off to a good start. We're getting there. We're moving forward.
Thank you for your help.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is what we're here to do. Any sort of support. If you have any questions about fiscal sponsorship, about bag costs, about bag contents, about community organizations, fundraising, etc., feel free to reach out to Stephanie, reach out to myself at any point, and we will do our best to guide you in the right direction. Any other last minute questions, last stories that you want to share? Any successes, any challenges? Well, all right. I guess that's a good thing then. Well, keep doing what you've been doing. We've got great programs right now. You all are doing an awesome job. Please don't forget to fill out your evaluations for these video conferences. We want to know what we're doing right, what we could improve on, and what directions we should go in future conferences. So if there's any topic that we can delve into more that might assist you, be sure to let us know. And also don't forget that these qualify for continuing education credits. So submit your paperwork for these video conferences and get credit for it. And if there's nothing else, thank you all for your time, and contact us if there's anything else you can do, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.